On December 4th, 2024, the Kabekache Women Resource and Developmental Center, led by Dr. Emem Okon, organized the Niger Delta Women's Day of Action for Environmental Justice in Port Harcourt.
I welcome you all to the Niger Delta Women Convergence to mark the Women's Day of Action for Environmental Justice 2024. This journey started in 2016, precisely November 22nd, in a Cassette Sensitization Forum for Women in the Niger Delta to discuss the reports of the assessments conducted by the United Nations Environment Programme on Ogoni. To us, the Women's Day of Action is a period when women deeply consider the effects of oil extraction, effects of oil and gas extraction on women, and the benefits of the oil economy for women. It is a period of great mobilization for women, a period of promoting solidarity and sisterhood among women in the Niger Delta. It is a day to consider how we have fought all these decades, how our grandmothers fought with oil extraction, how our mothers have survived oil extraction, and how we presently are surviving the effects of oil extraction. The Women's Day of Action is a day where we laugh and sing over pollution, a day that despite poverty, gasless, flooding, inequality, capitalism, and colonialism. The Women's Day of Action is a season that we question our power to resist, power to make change. Are we doing enough? What can we do differently? On this day, we shout, we cry, we sing. It is a period to build women's power.
The event brought together women from across the Niger Delta to discuss environmental justice and women's rights.
You are seeing how, even though women interact with the environment daily, yet they don't have rights to land. They don't have land rights. I mean, it was just in 2022 that a law was passed in Rivers State that women can actually inherit properties. I think that was actually embarrassing and insulting to all of us as women, right? So I think that as we're talking about the just transition, we shouldn't only talk about moving from one energy source to another, moving from crude oil to another, moving from this one to cleaner energy, and all of that. I think that we should also address the existing and historical inequalities that exist in this fossil age, where women are denied brand light. In cases of remediation and restoration, women are not at the forefront of this discussion. So I think that beyond the switching from one energy to another, women should be included in discussions surrounding the energy transition because they are the most impacted.
If you don't take it, they will not allow you. We must be at the forefront. We must begin to teach our children. Because if we must go from extraction to restoration, we must change strategy. We must change strategy. And that's what this is talking about. Just energy, people are already saying they will lose jobs. We don't even have the jobs in the first place. So the people who are going to lose jobs will be the other population, the 30%. And friends and families of the 1%, of the billionaires, they're the ones who will get the new jobs. Unless we make our voices heard.
Are we prepared for the transition? Yes. Do we say technical school is for men? Let's send our children, our female children for tailoring, hairdressing, and other work that we feel it's only women that can go for it. I love that.
Keynote speakers, including Tengi George Ikoli, emphasized the importance of women's inclusion in decision-making processes.
I am standing in for Tengi George Ikoli. She's the one that's supposed to take this keynote address. This discussion is particularly important because globally, 70% of people living in poverty are women. Leaving them dependent on natural resources affected by extraction and environmental degradation. In resource-rich communities, women bear the brunt of displacement, reduced agricultural yields, and water contamination caused by extraction activities, leaving them with fewer livelihood options. I'm sure that if we take a census in this hall, there are more than 60% of women here who can relate to this very practically, because we live it, we see it, and it's been part of our lives. Some women, this has been part of their lives from the day they were conceived. From the day they were conceived, and they've been living that life till now.
To address gender equality, governments, federal and subnational alike, must remove any provisions restricting women's equal participation. Be ambitious about gender transformative change. It should not only be on paper, but it should also walk the talk. We must require gender disaggregation and transparency, and strictly require and enable the participation of women and gender minorities through verifiable goals and processes.
Dr. Michael Izoigwe's public lecture stressed the need for women's participation in host community development trust.
For us to be sure that as a country, we are not left behind in the energy transition, we need huge resources. The energy transition simply says that yes, we are going to move away from fossil fuels. Nigeria depends mostly on fossil fuels. In fact, the Niger Delta is where we get the fossil fuels. So we on one end, we might be happy that at least the environmental damage that extraction is doing to us might end if we move away from fossil fuels, right? But the other side of it is that the huge resources coming to the country and also coming to the region. I know you will argue about that, but we will soon come to it. The mechanisms you had or you have are not working well. Okay? So we have the 30% derivation that is paid to states. We have the NDDC, and the companies also have GMOUs with communities. But overall, we have not received the expected level of development that should happen in communities bearing or impacted by oil production. Okay? So Nigeria has started to try a new system. So this system puts money directly in the hands of communities. I thought you were excited by that.
So many are finding it extremely difficult to feed since flooding causes them to hurriedly harvest prematurely or abandon what is in the soil to the raging water, and with no saving it becomes increasingly impossible for them to feed or live within the $1.9 per day average projected for Nigeria. You know that even those who are working, before the end of the month, they have eaten up their salary. Yes. Because the cost of food keeps going up every minute, and you have to do it.
The event featured panel discussions, goodwill messages, and an award presentation to Reverend Inimo Bassi for his exceptional leadership in environmental justice.
There can be nothing better than representing a Reverend Lee.
As the event concluded, the women in attendance left with renewed determination to fight for environmental justice and women's rights in the Niger Delta.
This is actually an exhibition on what is tenable in Edo State, to be precise, Gelegele community. Here we have what we call the bitters, and this bitters is actually a detoxifier. It's purely natural. It's a detoxifier, and it also helps for people that have maybe traces of cancer. Yeah, and this is an antibiotic. It's an herbal antibiotic. It's purely herbal. Like these bitters and these herbal antibiotics, I have used it to help people that have had the issues with kidney and liver. Yeah. Now, before now, this is not the size of cassava that the Gelegele community used to produce. But unfortunately, Gelegele community is a gas flaring community. This cage is used by the community woman to get crayfish from the river, the small crayfish.
In the new era, and as we move on, women need to know their rights. They need to be very inclusive in all human endeavors, and they need to be part of the process. Any process that human beings are to participate. I want to believe that even in our families, women are the mothers. So including women in issues that will take care of livelihood is very necessary.
A lot of women are also getting involved in the struggle for environmental justice, especially women in the Niger Delta. Before now, there was one narrative, but now you have the narrative of the women from the perspective of their own personal experience on what has happened to them. And so because of that experience, you now have information for people to help people take the right make the right judgments, call, and ensure that they carry people along in all of this. It is a struggle. It's something we have started a long time ago, but consistency, collaboration, persistence and resilience is what we need as Niger Delta women to bring about the kind of change that we look forward to.
I think the key message here is that the women need to keep pushing the boundaries, okay? They don't have to give up. There are a lot of barriers. Like I said, the key message here is about how do we overcome barriers. If you want to overcome something, you identify it first. So you need to identify these barriers, articulate them properly, so that when you are now engaging, you engage from the standpoint of knowledge. And they should also, especially the crop we have here, we have tried to build their capacity to seek information, seek evidence. So when they're arguing, we need a place. They will be able to say, oh, we need a place to, voice our own demands for this reason, that reason, with data and statistics. That's it.
Justice today or beyond today would mean that these women are crafted into leadership positions. It will also mean that these women will rely on fisheries and agriculture, that their lands are restored so that they can go back to their means of livelihood again. So that's what justice today will mean for these women that are present here.
We are also made to understand that it is not the same solution addressing barriers that works for everybody. So if we try to adopt one measure to address all categories of marginalized persons and vulnerable persons, then we still miss the mark. We have not addressed the problems. So that is the issue we are addressing here, so that even we as women, we will understand what inclusion is, and also the stakeholders will also understand what inclusion is, so that no one person, no one group is left out of the process. We have talked about capacity building, we have talked about taking the campaigns to rural communities, we have talked about engaging with legislators. I think what needs to be done is that not one organization, but everybody represented here should take it as it should be everybody's agenda to take the message back home, and also discuss issues of inclusion, also discuss your own needs and concerns to be taken on board the process. So that to us is what we need to do. So we need to really spread the message. We need to really sensitize the community so that they also understand. Community leaders particularly need to understand. Members of the different decision-making bodies also need to understand. Even government, we need to advocate and campaign that the different policies and the legislation that is put in place should be implemented as they should be.
Women!